Hi, I'm Judy Mollica, moderator for Friends of Delray, and today we'll be speaking to Michele Harrington from the Delray Beach Public Library about their Lifelong Learning Institute. And later we'll meet some of the professors that will be teaching a couple of the fabulous courses. Michele, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Michele, what is the Lifelong Learning Institute?
So the Lifelong Learning Institute is a program that's offered through many different cities and communities. It's also offered at the library. We've brought it back to the library. It is classes, if you will, that are taught in a non-traditional setting. So it's not at a university per se or in a typical classroom. It's courses on subject matter that's relevant or interesting to the audience. And yeah, it's a very unique tool in which to share more information outside of a traditional classroom.
Awesome. When I was forced to go to school, I didn't want to learn. Like, I didn't know. All I have to do is learn, right? But now it's like, that sounds pretty appealing to me.
Yeah.
And I'm interested also in something like that that can keep my brain from going to more mush than it's already been.
Right,
So thank you for offering the courses.
Yes, yes.
How long has the library been offering these?
So, to the best of my knowledge, I stepped into the position just about a year ago, and I went so far back as to 2017 when there was a pretty intense program. So from 2017 to 2020, there was quite a bit of content that had been offered on different topics and subjects. And then, as we all know, after 2020, that dreaded C word, it sort of fell off a little bit. And it took a little time and attention to try and bring it back. So I took a look at what had been offered previously with, my predecessors and the powers that be at the library, and we decided to really kind of step it up a notch. And while it wanted to be relevant topics and things that were on point and trending, we just decided that we needed to really up the game and take it to another level and bring it back, not just for a month of generic courses, but almost 3 months of full, really interesting and topical content.
Excellent. I'm excited about this. How did you come up with the topics?
Well, it wasn't just myself. We had a very dedicated team, and one of our professors, Dr. Firestone, who you will meet, was very instrumental in helping us get here. We had lots of pages and topics of proof of concept that we sorted through, and that's how after a lot of meetings, we narrowed it down.
Excellent. So when do the courses begin?
February
and then
3rd
how do I sign up?
Okay, should have let you finish. February 3rd will be our first class.
Okay, coming right up.
And yes, and all you need to do is go to the delraylibrary.org, and on that home page you will see a button where it says Lifelong Learning, and you click on that and it brings you to an entirely separate interface and page where you can register there for the different courses. There's 5 being offered.
Excellent. What's the cost of the courses?
So it's $80 per series. So there's 5 series.
Okay.
You do have the option, however, to sign up one course at a time. But overall, the series itself is $80, and if you need to sign up for individual courses, it's $30.
Okay. Very good. I'm excited to see all the classes and talk to some of the professors and learn a little bit more about how you got them.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Michele, for being here.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Welcome, Dr. Linda Firestone. Thank you so much for being here. I wanted to discuss with you how you came up with the courses and the content and concepts and the presenters. That's that's a lot of work.
I did, Michele and Kay Johnson's asked me to help them with their lifelong learning program. And so I went and I did some research. And I came up with 3 pages of concepts of things that were going on around the country.
Okay.
In different libraries, in different community centers, things that I thought would be interesting and slightly different. And I also had heard on NPR a show on dark matter, which is why I put that one in there.
Okay.
And anyway, Kay and Michele discussed it. And then they chose out of the 3 pages what it was they wanted.
Okay.
And then I started to look for people who I thought would be a good match for talking about these subjects. And I reached out to them, and then I tried to shape their presentations to the concept that I had given
Come
to
up with, I
Michele
see.
and Kay, and everybody was very magnanimous about it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I'm excited to see people get enrolled in them and see some of the feedback. Thanks so much for all your hard work. Are you an employee of the library, or did you do
I'm
this as a
not.
volunteer?
I did this as a volunteer.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
And we appreciate all your hard work and look forward to the courses. Thank
Yes,
you.
and I look forward to them too.
Thank you. Well, we welcome Dr. Russell Hamer. One of the courses that are going to be coming up in the library is Perception, Illusion, and the Brain, being taught by Russell Hamer. Dr. Hamer, can you tell me a little bit about your background and what got you interested in the topic of perception and illusion, and why might that be interesting to the average person?
Good question.
Thank you.
My background, I got my PhD in sensory neuroscience, and I spent most of my career studying visual neuroscience, that is how we see, all the way from the very beginning of vision when light enters the eye and is captured by photoreceptors and then sends signals to the brain, all the way to the experience of perception and all the sequelae to perception, interpretation, aesthetics, and so on. And these are central questions to humanity. How do we see? How do we interpret things? What is beautiful? How do we come to know the world around us? And generally, this is not taught in schools. When you think back at your education in high school,
No, we just take it for
you
granted.
never
We can
learn
see
about
things.
the brain and how we see, how we feel, how we smell, hearing. Excuse me. And vision is an amazing ability that we have that's evolved over millions of years.
Amazing. But why are visual illusions interesting?
That's it's actually a profound question. If you think about what vision is for, using vision, we have to be able to understand the world around us, interpret objects, identify objects, avoid obstacles, segregate them visually so you don't mix them up. We need to be able to run through the forest if we're chasing prey, or run through the forest if we're being chased as prey, and avoid obstacles. So obviously, it's obvious that vision is central to our evolutionary survival. But beyond that, and most people don't know this, it's also not taught in the schools, the retina, where vision begins when light enters the eye and is absorbed by the photoreceptors, the design and structure of the retina is common to all vertebrates, and it has been around for, give or take, 500 million years.
Wow.
So the design of the neural machinery requisite for us to see and behave in the world based on visual information is a very ancient evolutionary heritage that we carry. And then illusions are important because they give us clues about what's important to the brain and what isn't. Normally, as we move through life, you would hope that we didn't misinterpret the visual information around us frequently.
We think our dog's a cat.
Well, or not understand how to estimate distance.
Wow, oh, good point.
Things
Right,
like this. We wouldn't have survived as a species. Nevertheless, because our visual system is so complex and the brain is so complex, there are occasional instances in which our visual system gets fooled, and we call these illusions.
Okay.
I have a couple examples I could show you.
One of the things, but I do want to see that, and I'm interested in optical illusions and how it messes with our brain, but you had mentioned that I always thought we all saw in 3D, just what we did. But you said that is not the case.
Well,
Sort of.
that's a very, yeah. We all of us are able to operate in a three-dimensional world, even if you cover one eye.
Right.
The world doesn't suddenly become flat, right?
Okay. Right.
So I could walk across the room easily and avoid obstacles with one eye. Two eyes helps you in very, very fine 3D resolution. But one of the surprising facts is that our perceptual experience of depth and distance is, in a way, a grand illusion, because the images that fall on the retina, which is all we have to go by, are two-dimensional array of light and dark and color on the retina. And the retina is a flat sheet of cells. It's not three-dimensional. So there's no 3D in the eye.
It's our brain?
It's created by the brain's interpretation of cues outside of ourselves.
Wow.
And fortunately, it does a pretty good job.
It sure does.
Or we'd be in trouble.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So what are some of the optical illusions that you were discussing, and what makes those optical illusions? Why can't our brain separate those out and distinguish them?
I'm going to correct you on one thing.
Okay.
It's all over the internet. People talk about optical.
True.
There are no optical illusions.
Oh, okay.
People. Yeah.
All right.
They're visual.
Visual
Optics
illusions.
is physics. Light,
Okay.
optics, your cornea, your lens. There's no perception that goes on there. It's only after things hit the retina and neural activity starts. So it's really visual illusions.
Okay.
Okay, I'll give you one wonderful example.
Okay.
So, based on our 500 million years of evolution, our brains have figured out that the source of light is from above.
Right.
The sun, the moon, the stars. And so your brain has encoded, literally in our genetics, a built-in assumption about the source of light. And this sometimes can lead to very unusual, unexpected illusions that derive from shadow information, which we use to determine the shape of objects. As any artist knows, you need shading to create 3D and to understand distance and depth. So here, I don't know if you can zoom in on this or you will later. So this is a photograph I took at Park Güell, which is a park in Barcelona. And it's a little section of a tile wall. And you can see the white squares tend to be bulges, like convex, bumps.
Okay.
And the colored major tile sections tend to look like concave, like indentations. Until I turn it around and they all reverse. And that's because, based on the shadow information, which is ambiguous, if I just gave you this photo, you wouldn't know which way is right side up.
That is crazy.
So your brain makes an assumption about the source of light and interprets depth based on that. And you can see you get two alternate interpretations.
Same brain.
Hopefully.
Right.
Same brain.
Wow.
Here's another illusion.
Okay.
The brain is very interested in edges and lines and contours.
Because it makes sense?
In order to segregate objects.
Okay.
And understand where one object begins and another starts, where one object ends and another starts. And the importance of lines and edges can be illustrated by this incredible illusion called the Kanitsa illusion. So you'll see a white triangle hovering above a black, and occluding, in fact, a black triangle behind it. And you see the three Pac-Men at the corners. Well, in fact, the white edges of the triangle don't exist physically. They're in your brain. The only edges, black-white edges that exist, are inside the mouths of the Pac-Man. All the rest between the Pac-Man mouths are created by your brain.
Wow, it's amazing.
And they're quite crisp lines.
Yeah, I can see them clearly, but they don't exist.
They don't exist. No.
Wow, that is amazing. Well, I think the course sounds fascinating.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to learn more. Thank you so much.
It's going to be fun. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, I welcome Dr. Ada Sarajedini, hope I pronounced that right, Professor of Astrophysics. Dr. Sarajedini will be teaching An Expanding Universe, Dark Matter and Dark Energy. What does it all mean? Wow. Dr. Sarajedini Jeannie,
mm-hmm.
man, I had it twice. Good time.
it was close.
Anyway, yeah, is professor of astrophysics at FAU, Florida Atlantic University, received his PhD in astronomy from Yale University, and spent 5 years as a postdoctoral researcher and a Hubble Fellow at Kitt Peak National Observatory near Tucson, Arizona, and San Francisco State University. Professor, I think that astrophysics and astronomy are enjoying a golden age, especially with the 2021 launch of the James Webb Telescope. Are there some significant discoveries that have occurred since that launch took place?
Oh, that's a good question. 3 years really isn't enough time to have all the discoveries that are made by the telescope and then published and vetted. So a lot of the discoveries at this point are preliminary. Yes, they're published in the refereed and peer-reviewed literature, but people really haven't hung their hats on them yet. There's still a lot of preliminary data out there that astronomers are trying to understand. It takes a while to really understand the ins and outs of the data you're trying to analyze. So yes, it's been 3 years, but on timescales of science, that's a very short time.
I guess so.
Usually it takes more than that to actually understand what you're observing and what it means in terms of the discoveries you're trying to make. Now, there are areas that Webb has been designed to study in particular. It's got infrared capabilities, and most of that is because it's trying to look at places in the sky and in the universe where stars are forming. Usually stars form in areas of dust, and dust is basically an absorber of light. To look through the dust, you have to use the infrared part of the spectrum, which is exactly where Webb is looking. Another area that Webb is interested in looking at is very far galaxies. Galaxies that are very far away. When you look very far away, you're looking back in time. You want to know when the first galaxies formed. And Webb is very good at that because it's able to look at the infrared very far away. And by looking far away, you look back in time, it's trying to figure out when were the first galaxies formed in the universe. That's one of the 3 or 4 focus areas that Webb was designed to study. We'll talk more about this in the course, so this is just the preview of the concepts that we're going to talk about in the class.
Wow. So the telescopes are sending tons of information. How does all that data, how can it possibly be analyzed?
Well, the telescopes, yes, Hubble and Webb both send data to the Earth as they take it, and it's all stored essentially on these very large servers in Baltimore, Maryland, where the telescopes are being controlled from. And they're available online, they're on the web, anyone can access them. You have to know what you're looking for,
We
of
wouldn't
course.
understand it, but we can access it.
Right, you can access
You
it,
might.
but you don't know necessarily how to handle it and,
Right.
and the intricacies of the data reduction and analysis. But yes, it's all stored on the ground in large computers with huge amounts of disk space, and a fairly straightforward web interface allows you to access all these data. And it's a powerful data set, but obviously you have to know how to access it and what you're looking for to be able to study the universe using those data.
It's just right out there for the public.
Anybody can
That
access
is
it, and the reason for
amazing.
that is because these are taxpayer-funded facilities.
Okay.
The taxpayers of the United States and those in Europe funded them. And so the data, when it's taken, is stored locally, on a computer, and accessible to anyone who can get online and,
Amazing.
have a web browser.
Well, not to be a spoiler for your whole course, but
Yeah.
can you just give me a sort of what is dark matter and dark energy?
Well,
That's like,
astronomers were really good at the obvious, right? Dark matter is matter that's dark. What is matter? I better not say too much because you may not want to come to my talk. But
I'm coming.
The point is that I'll be talking about what dark matter and dark energy is in detail in my presentations. But the short answer is dark matter is matter that's dark, gives off no light. You might ask, well, how do we know it's there? I will leave that to my presentation. I will tell you about that in my presentation. How do we know it's there if it doesn't give off any light? And what about dark energy? Well, similarly, it's energy that's dark. We don't know what it is. All we know is that it has the properties of energy. And we're going to talk more about that in my talks, at the Delray Library.
it's fascinating.
There's a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss, a lot to present. That's really, I wouldn't do it justice if I just told you about it right now, because there's a lot of graphics and description that need to go along with the explanation.
Can somebody without a science background understand what you're...
I'm glad you asked, because these talks are designed for the layperson.
Okay.
Anyone off the street without any kind of science background or education really in science. I designed the presentations to be accessible by anyone. And I'm glad you asked about that, because one of the main focuses of the talks is science. What is science? How do we do it? Why is it important? And what are the main pieces and experiences that scientists have as they're going through their scientific endeavors and researches? And we'll be talking about that as well. How can you tell science from non-science or pseudoscience? We're going to cover that as well. Those are all the different aspects of my talk series.
Very exciting. There's a lot of pseudoscience going on out
Yes.
there. So to register for these courses, you go to delraylibrary.org and then look down where it says Lifelong Learning Institute and click on, and you can sign up for any of the courses. But you have to hurry because they're coming up. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm Judy Mollica for Friends of Delray. Please let your voices be heard, get engaged, talk with neighbors, and attend city meetings. And look for our next video. We believe Delray is at its best when we're stronger together.
Just another Delray.